Looking for the best place to shop this Mother's Day? Go with the brand that makes it easy to send something thoughtful to everyone on your list. 1-800-Flowers.com. Right now at 1-800-Flowers, order 1 dozen roses and get another dozen free. More flowers mean more smiles, all backed by the quality, attention to detail, and trusted delivery experience that make 1-800-Flowers my top choice to send something beautiful Mom will love. Make Mom's Day at 1-800-Flowers.com/podcast. That's 1-800-Flowers.com/podcast.
Hey there, and welcome to the Think Fitness Life podcast. We're fueled by the incredible clients who inspire us every day, allowing us to elevate their health and fitness journeys. On this show, you'll gain valuable insights from top professionals, hear inspiring transformation stories, and discover the knowledge and motivation to create your own best life. Let's dive in. As someone who has continuously used therapy as a way to heal and elevate my personal performance, I know wholeheartedly that you cannot always read the label when you're in the jar. And that's why it's so helpful to have a professional in your corner to talk to. This podcast is sponsored by BetterHelp to provide our listeners with the opportunity to work with a licensed therapist from the comfort of your own home. Receive 10% off your first month when you sign up by going to betterhelp.com/TFL. That's betterhelp.com/T as in think, F as in fitness, L as in life. And remember, you're not alone. There are people out there who can help.
Oh, yes, we have, it's Dr. Chris Rhodes?
Yep, Dr. Chris Rhodes.
And what are you a doctor in?
I am a PhD in nutritional biochemistry from UC Davis.
You're basically a mad scientist.
Yeah.
So when your team sent over the information for you, and what is this stuff? I've never heard of it. And usually I've heard of most supplements, and I'm like, how come I've never heard of this? I'm looking at it, I'm like, oh, what is this thing? But I want you to dive into, tell what the name of the company is, what you do, and how you came about this. Because I'm sure you were in the lab for a while, or in the notebook being, how do I create this? And I've been telling people about this, some of my clients, and they're like, what do you mean? It helps mimic fasting, it helps do this, and this. I'm like, wait till the episode comes out and you're going to learn about it.
Full story. Yeah, absolutely. The company and the product are both called Mimio, Mimio, and that is a combination of both mimic and biology together. This gets at our underlying biomimetic research approach. And basically what that means is we are looking at actual human biology in these really interesting regenerative states of the body, whether that's fasting or exercise or sleep or meditation or cold exposure, things like that. And then really teasing out what happens in the body during those states that cause all of these beneficial effects to happen, and finding ways that we can recreate those benefits through supplementation on demand. The first product that we have is our fasting mimetic, and that was designed from over 7 years of clinical research that I was doing at UC Davis as part of my PhD. Basically, what we found there was when people fast for 36 hours, there's this unique set of molecules that are produced by the body that are really only elevated during a fast. And we found that those were the ones responsible for activating a lot of these cellular health and longevity benefits of fasting. We basically just took those molecules, put them into a daily pill so that you can recreate fasting at the molecular level, get those same benefits, but without actually having to fast.
Dang. And when you found out, how did you get those molecules?
Yeah. All of the molecules themselves are metabolites. What that means is that they're breakdown products of ordinary nutrients. For example, the list that we have is nicotinamide, spermidine, palmitoyl ethanolamide, and oleoyl ethanolamide. And nicotinamide is a vitamin B3 derivative. Spermidine is an arginine breakdown product. Palmitoyl ethanolamide is a palmitic acid breakdown product, and oleoyl ethanolamide is a oleic acid breakdown product. You can find all of these things, yes, naturally produced in the human body during a fast, but also just generally around from the food stream and in your typical nutrients.
Awesome. How long? No, you said 7 years. Was that testing on yourself, testing on other people?
Yeah. Yeah, the progress throughout the whole thing was we did actually start by testing on me. We were really curious about fasting just as an intervention, and I was really curious about fasting as an intervention because it's one of the only ways that we know of to reliably extend the lifespan in animal models. And when you dive into the research beyond that, you also see that fasting can help to treat, prevent, or delay most major diseases. It's kind of this one thing that does everything. And what was really fascinating about fasting for me is that it does all of that without actually adding anything to the body. It's not this superfood or this wonder drug that's activating these pathways, but somehow fasting is turning on this, what I like to call longevity bio program that we all already have inside of us, but just isn't ordinarily active. That, to me, when that clicked in my mind, I was, oh, well, that makes me super angry. Because my body is, it knows how to live to be 120 years old in imperfect health, but it's just not doing it. That's really what catapulted me into the fasting research of what's happening in the human body during a fast. Is there a way that we can recreate it? The first step of that was really me going into the lab and saying, okay, well, I'm going to do a 72-hour fast, and I'm going to take my blood the whole time and look at my cellular functionality, look at what happens to my plasma, and see how long do we actually have to fast to kind of get these big functional enhancements. And what we landed on was around 36 hours of fasting. That seemed to be the sweet spot where you really switched over into fasting and ketone metabolism. You really started to see autophagy activate. You really could see these cellular functionalities increase. My cells became more anti-inflammatory. They became more antioxidant. They became more cardioprotective. They had better metabolic efficiency, metabolic flexibility, all that fun stuff. That was where we kind of got the 36-hour mark from. And then after that, we transitioned into a larger clinical study where we had 20 people come in, 10 men and 10 women, to avoid a gender bias, make sure we were looking at actual universal human responses to fasting. And then that's what we had them do. We just had them come in, look at them in a baseline state and look at them in a 36-hour fasting state, and then look at their before and afters.
When you did the 72 hours, I know that's really popular, and I've got some clients going through it now. Did you see after 36 hours, because the research, it gets a little interesting on this. After 36, did you see another increase, or did it just kind of 36 was that big peak and then it just kind of plateaus out?
Yeah, we saw the plateau after around 48 hours fasting. You definitely get a big shift from the earlier stages of fasting, kind of the 16 hours, the 18 hours, the 20 hours, 24 hours. Then that's about the time that it takes for your body to deplete its glycogen store, the stored carbohydrates in your body. And when you're still running through those glycogen stores, your body is still going to be operating primarily off of glucose metabolism. But once those are gone, you get this shift over to fat utilization, ketone body production, and more of what we think about when we think fasting, the cellular benefits, autophagy, things that G really kind of starts kicking off at that 24-hour mark, gets higher at 36 hours, and seems to peak at around the 48-hour mark. That was kind of our data set there. But the incremental change that we saw from 36 hours to 48 hours, while 48 hours was more of that plateau zone, it was not that significant, not as big of this big shift change that we saw between a 24-hour and a 36-hour.
Yeah, because the research is always, remember a company maybe 5 years ago, fasting was the thing. It was how long to do. Now meta-analysis kind of say, hey, well, it might not have to be as long, but these 72 hours, I know by social media and by word of mouth, they're starting to become really popular. And I always wonder, is it necessary to go 72? For someone, me, who likes to put on muscle mass, I'm not going to do it. The longest I've done is about 36, and I felt pretty good. But as a performance athlete, it's hard. But that's why when this came across, I'm like, wait a second, I can get this in a pill and be able to utilize this, enhance this, but still accomplish my goals. And I wonder, was that one of your reasons why you put it in pill form too? Where you, hey, look, I can enhance someone's fast. Let's go even more, or both.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and that's actually how I use Mimio to this day. When I was doing my initial research, I was an immunology fellow at Stanford before I transitioned into being the PhD, and that's kind of where we started doing a lot of the foundational research for this. I actually got really into fasting because I could actually see, yeah, sure, if I fast for 36 hours, I can see that there's these changes in cellular functionality. I can see that it's actually affecting me, making my cells more resilient, more anti-inflammatory, less reactive to autoimmune stress. Really, really powerful stuff. I was great. Well, this is my lifestyle from now on. I'm just going to do alternate day fasting, essentially.
Yep.
And that was really hard because society is not at all set up for an alternate day fasting regimen, because there's this very interesting element of social isolation that goes along with that, because you're not having meals with friends or family or lunches with coworkers or whatever. Or if you are, you're that weird guy who's just holding his glass of water and is like, I'm just going to watch you eat. And
Yeah,
nobody
done that. Oh yeah, I was that person.
Yeah, nobody wants that. Eventually, I transitioned out of that because my sister actually told me, I was still doing alternate day fasting on a vacation, and she was, okay, you're gonna be living longer, but what is the point of living longer if you have to live less? And that was this very impactful thing for me. And I was like, yeah, maybe we've taken this too far. I transitioned more towards a 1 meal a day kind of regimen. But what I'll do now is I'll take Mimio in the morning, and that's going to kind of jumpstart the fast, give me those metabolites that would normally only be produced during a 36-hour fast. I can get these longer term fasting benefits in a shorter fasting window. And then it also really helps to make a fast easier because it has these benefits on appetite suppression and has these benefits on cognition enhancement, mood elevation, and even some pain relief elements as well that are coming from the palmitoyl ethanolamide. So that's really how I like to use it now. It's just as a way to really jumpstart the benefits of my fast, give me those longer term benefits, make fasting easier. And yeah, that's just been my regimen.
You say with that, you don't have to fast as long as 36 hours because you're giving your cells the signal to mimic that 36 hours.
Yeah,
Which
absolutely.
I mean, that's going to go far because life's busy nowadays. And of course, in the same way, I want to get fast in, but also at the same time, I need protein. This has helped me, and I played around with it. And it said sports or performance and recovery. So I'm like, okay, let's take it before workout, see what happens. Let's take it at night to see what happens. And I've been playing around with it to just kind of see how my body feels with it. Because for me, I work out super early in the morning. I'm always working out in a fasted state. I was like, let me see if I can enhance cellular function from this with my workout. Then I can have my meal. And so far, well, it's been going well.
Yeah, absolutely. We do hear that a lot, that there are some exercise performance enhancement effects of Mimio. That's actually when we were starting up the company, a reason why a couple of our investors ended up actually investing in us, because they took it. One of them was a marathon cyclist, basically, and he was going out doing a track that he had done before, and he was doing it with all his buddies. Took Mimio about an hour beforehand and told us, I could really feel that something was going on. He did the track, he set a PR, beat out all of his friends, and he was great, I'm sold. And then same with one of the other investors we had. He was a marathon runner and just saw that he could push a lot farther than he normally could and had a much easier time recovering afterwards. And what's really interesting, we've also done a clinical case study with Mount Sinai, the Dave Putrino lab there. Basically 8 weeks of supplementation with Mimio, but not changing diet or lifestyle in any way, shape, or form. And what we saw there was really big improvements to metabolic health markers, better cholesterol levels, higher HDL, lower LDL, lower triglyceride levels, lower glucose levels, lower HbA1c levels. But also really interestingly, we got a 50% increase in free testosterone just from supplementation with Mimio, and after that 8-week mark.
Okay, now you're talking testosterone. You now have me more intrigued now because that wasn't marketed on the website. But that's the cool thing. When you obviously you can't take this once or twice. You have to let your body on the website and the package. It says you have to let it. What's it? 60 days.
Yeah.
Let 60 days kind of get into your system. Let it start working, because cellular change doesn't happen just a switch. You turn that switch on, but then you got to leave that switch on and keep it going and going. But That's when you got the 50% increased testosterone, you're probably, wait a second, something's got to be wrong. You go back, you look, you're like, no, this is what we're getting. Heck yeah. Any other levels of metabolites or metabolic things that you're seeing? Because when you talk about cholesterol and all that, we're talking to a group of people that are put on, and my dad's one, I've had this conversation with him, statins, and I don't think I need it. How do I do this naturally? And I always talking with people like you and reading the research. No, you can be on this, and this. You take this supplement, do this. Now that you hear that, wait a second, this is going to change the game for a lot of people's health once they start to realize it's not just a fasting supplement.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's kind of one of the big things that we've always tried to do with the research around Mimio is whenever we do the clinical studies, and we've done 3 clinical studies far, we always do it with folks who are not changing their diet or their lifestyle. And we don't do it with people who are actually fasting. The use case of Mimio as a fasting enhancer, kind of how I use it, is not what we actually do for our studies. What we do for our studies is just, eat normally and take Mimio and then see what the effects are. In our first clinical study where we did that, our pilot study, we had people come in, eat a standardized breakfast alongside a placebo control, then looked at their cellular functionalities, their plasma functionalities we did in the original fasting study. And then we had those same people come back after a washout period, eat that same standardized breakfast, but then with supplementation with Mimio. And what we found there was that when people ate the meal with the placebo, there was this big loss of functionality. Their cells became more pro-inflammatory, they became less antioxidant, they became less cardioprotective, they became less metabolically efficient. But when we had that same meal, but then with supplementation with Mimio, we were able to not only prevent all of that loss of function, but then actually add gains of function on top of that mimicked what we saw when people were in this 36-hour fasted state. Instead of being pro-inflammatory, they became anti-inflammatory and antioxidant and cardioprotective and metabolically efficient. That was really interesting. That was kind of our first big thing where it's like you can get these fasting benefits even when you are eating. And then we did the case study with Mount Sinai where we did the 8 weeks of supplementation, saw those really great improvements to the metabolic markers, the hormonal markers. But then also a really big thing from that study was that we were able to achieve a 2.5-year reduction in biological age just in that 8-week time period.
Oh, wow.
And then in our third clinical study, our latest one, big randomized double-blind placebo-controlled study, a gold standard clinical study design, we found that 8 weeks worth of supplementation with Mimio was able to really reduce appetite and improve hunger control as well as improving satiety. People had just a lot less hunger throughout the day. They were a lot less distracted from cravings, less food noise, less brain fog, and they had, when they did eat, were getting fuller faster and staying fuller longer, more satisfied with their actual meals. We were also able to reduce abdominal pain and bloating, which is really cool, those digestive symptoms that come along with eating, and then move the metabolic markers around again, improve glucose levels, improved cholesterol levels, and then improved cellular stress levels as well, really reducing cellular stress and oxidative damage that's happening because of food and lifestyle.
And in that study, did they eat or did they take the pills prior to food? When did they take them?
Yeah, for the original study, what we did there was we just had them take the pills alongside food and then looked at the before and after over a 6-hour time course just to kind of see what are the acute effects of the molecules themselves. And then for the 8-week studies, the 2 8-week studies, we had people take it alongside their first meal of the day, and that was it.
Wow. Quite the benefits. Even if you're reducing hunger as you take it with meal number 1 of the day, shows the impact. And that's something where when we're talking about this to people can't fathom this because they don't think that the science is going to be there. We have Ozempics in the world. We have these quick fixes, but people aren't thinking of, hey, we're going to get metabolites and things in a pill that's going to enhance certain functions of the body. And I firmly believe that's really the next levels of supplementation of where things are going to go for quality of life. We start to see this coming out now. And for you guys, I mean, how long have you been around? I'm just hearing of you guys as of recently, but to me, you're new, but how long have you guys been in business?
Yeah, the actual studies themselves were kicked off when I was getting my PhD. That was around 2016, 2017. We finished all of that research, including the pilot study, in 2022, and then actually got out on market in 2024. We've only been around for about a year and a half at this point.
It takes that time to do all those research, all that stuff. And now you say, okay, we're now out and about. And then it takes time and word of mouth. People can get this stuff out because it's not going to be one that people are really going to understand what this is. They'll go to the website and they're gonna be like, what are these supplements? And I've that's why I always ask what's in it, or I tell people, oh, here's what's in it, and they look at me like, what are you taking? And I'm like, well, they are byproducts of fasting. But did you guys find there was a lot of byproducts from fasting,
Right.
or just these ones? And then what kind of led you to hone into, hey, I'm gonna pick these ones? And I assume they were probably the most elevated or most bang for your buck.
Yeah, it was really the most bang for your buck.
Yeah.
That's what it was. When we did the original study, what we found was that there were over 300 significantly elevated molecules during a fast. And from that list of 300, there were around 24 or that already had some kind of literature, scientific study behind them showing that they had bioactivity, whether that was that the molecule had anti-inflammatory effects, or it could promote autophagy, or it had antioxidant effects, whatever it was. From that list of around 24, we then screened through those individual molecules as well as a bunch of different combinations of them to see which ones could activate these fasting pathways. And then from that list, we honed in on the 4 that eventually became the Mimio formulation, because we found that those 4 had these synergistic effects together where they could activate these complementary pathways and really give you a broad spectrum of these fasting benefits. As an example of this, we were really interested in fasting as a longevity intervention. We did a C. elegans lifespan extension analysis, basically nematode little worms that typically only live for about a month, but they're the most common high throughput way of testing longevity interventions. We looked at each of the 4 individual ones and then the 4 in combination. And what we found was that the individual ones could extend the lifespan to a certain degree, whether that was 5%, 10%, 25%. But when we put them all together, we saw a 96% lifespan extension, basically doubling their lifespan just through supplementation with these molecules. And that's when we knew that we had something really special, that we are not only stacking benefits, but actually creating synergy.
I assume that's going to be the hardest thing. You have 300 things that increase, but some don't play with each other. And
Right.
you got to go find the ones that play best with each other. And that's the coolest thing. I'm sure you 100% respect. That's the coolest thing in the human body. It's like you can put this and this together and it works amazing, but you have this without this, you get something, but it's not what people think it is. And when people go and they get these individual vitamins, which I respect. If you look at my cabinet, there's a bunch of individual ones, but I kind of know which ones to take together. They work in synergy. That's the whole purpose of it. When people might pick this up and look at the ingredients, they're not going to know what they are, but they work together. You said 96%, and we're going to have a ball game.
Yeah, exactly. And that's a really major thing when you look at the supplement industry as a whole. You have a lot of companies who put together these formulations of this molecule and this molecule and this molecule all stacked together, but they never actually do the cellular research or the clinical research to back the formulation up. Usually when formulators are putting things together, products together, they're just looking at the studies of the individual ingredients themselves, and they don't really know how those ingredients interact together. And you can definitely get this situation where, some of these things work together and they have synergistic effects and it's great. But then other things can have antagonistic effects and they just kind of cancel each other out. A really good example of that is if you're taking something spermidine, which is an autophagy activator, alongside something branched chain amino acids that are TOR activators. Right. Those two things are going to bump.
And that's cool. I'm glad you brought that up because that's one where it's not just, hey, you're going to take this with a bunch of other supplements. You strategically place your supplements throughout the day to get the best benefits of them. And I always tell that to people. It's like, well, what switch do you want to turn on or off, or what do you want to activate? Because if you take them all at once, you might just be competing two things and they cancel each other out. And I'm 100% probably guilty of that at some point in my life where I was like, oh, let me take this and this, and this one was for one thing and this one's for another. And I'm, well, what am I doing?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and that's the really cool thing about Mimio and the whole biomimetic approach is that we are kind of using this almost scientific cheat code of our bodies have evolved over tens of thousands of years to have these built-in mechanisms to develop all of these molecules that not only were designed to work within the human body to perform a specific function, but even beyond that, were designed to work together to activate this, again, that bio program of longevity and survival. We're really just tapping into those thousands and thousands of years of evolutionary intelligence and trying to recreate that, because nobody knows how to heal a body better than the human body.
Mm-hmm. And it's one that this day and age, fasting's just not a big thing. It is in certain people. Think way back when we talk evolutionary times, like you had to go through periods of fast because there was no food. Now I could drive 2 minutes down the road and find food in any direction. This world that we've kind of created of always having nutrients, always having food, which great for survival, but now it's too great because now it's readily available. This gives that option for the system to say, hey, we can combat how evolutionary we've turned out to get back to our older styles without going completely, hey, I'm literally going to go without food for 36 hours. Some people might choose that, and that's okay. But in reality, you said earlier, it's really hard.
Yeah.
I was talking to my client today he's at 60 hours of a 72-hour or 68 hours of a 72-hour fast. And he working out, I mean, he was struggling. And he's done it before. And he's just, man, there's something different on this one. It's a struggle. Yeah, of course it's going to be. Your body's not going to feel good because way back in the day, you were probably, I need to find food or I'm going to die. There's some point that fasting can go too much and your body's, hey, I need to survive here. And in my head, and that's where the research shows, hey, 36 hours to 48, after that, you're probably going to start to really wither away because if you don't have food, that mTOR cycle needs to build something.
Exactly. Yeah. And what we typically see is that in the early stages of fasting, kind of you deplete your glycogen stores, you're at that 24-hour mark, and you're going into kind of what we think about as more prolonged fasting. What's going to happen there is that your brain is an obligate glucose consumer, meaning that it has to have some amount of energy that's coming from glucose. And what that ends up being is at least 50%. After you run through your body's stored carbohydrates and you can't pull glucose out of there anymore, you're going to start mobilizing fat, making ketone bodies. Those ketone bodies are then going to go to your brain and help fuel the cells. But again, they can only do about 50% of the work there. And the other 50% has to come from glucose. Where is that glucose going to come from? Your body's going to start breaking down proteins in order to do gluconeogenesis and make glucose from there that your brain can stay alive. In the early stages of prolonged fasting, that actually comes more from organ mass than it does from your muscle, because your body will still be operating kind of on this use it or lose it principle, but you're still doing physical activity, even during a fast, that's going to provide signals to your body that says, okay, spare the muscle. We still need that to survive and get around, chase down a gazelle, whatever it is. We'll start breaking down organ mass that's very energetically expensive and we might not need as much. And in the first stages, that's going to come from either the liver or the kidneys. And that's fine because you can regenerate both of those organs. But yes, as you get into these later stages of prolonged fasting, then it's going to be like, well, I already pulled as much as I can from these other essential things. I kind of need to start pulling it from muscle. We're going to have these ketone bodies that are circulating around that have this negative charge. They make the blood more acidic. In order to buffer that, we have to start pulling calcium and potassium out of bones. That's where you get the muscle loss. That's where you get the bone loss. That's where you really start going into more of the starvation response rather than this more protective, regenerative, early state fasting.
And that's why I respect people who do it, but then it's sort of, you have to find that balance of, are you fasting just to lose weight or numbers? Because now you're taking away muscle mass, or which is, if it's not someone's goal, not a bad thing. If they're burning fat during that, that's better. But I mean, research has shown you have to be really, really high fat mass to really burn. If someone's doing it and they're an athlete and they're low body fat percentage, you're playing that game where you're going to start losing muscle mass. It's always in my head, what's too long for a fast? And people have pushed fasting long times, but that's not the purpose of this. The purpose of fasting is to get that 36-hour quality of increase of autophagy, anti-inflammatory, that process of metabolites to really drive health benefits. And it's cyclical. Fast, eat, fast, eat. Now, as long as we're eating obviously good quality, healthy food, there's your longevity cycle there.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. And what's really interesting about fasting in terms of fasting versus caloric restriction is also one of the big interventions that we know of that can extend lifespan across pretty much all organisms. But long-term caloric restrictions has a lot of downsides to it as well, because you do get the muscle wasting component. You do get the bone leaching component. You can have brain shrinkage. You can have libido downturns, hormonal fluctuations, all of these things that kind of just come along with long-term caloric restriction. But what's really interesting about fasting is that you don't have those same problems, especially with something alternate day fasting, because with alternate day fasting, you are never going more than 36 hours without food at any one time. You're not allowing your body to get into this super energy restricted state for long enough that it's going to produce a lot of these deleterious effects. And what's also really fascinating about fasting is that its benefits are not dependent upon energy restriction or caloric restriction. We've done studies in mice that have shown that even when you feed the mice the exact same amount of calories, but just alter when they are actually consuming those calories, you can still get these longevity benefits, this lifespan extension, without having to actually reduce calories at all. It seems like it's a much more sustainable and natural longevity intervention that isn't going to disrupt life as much in the long term or affect health as much in the long term as just slow go, steady state caloric restriction.
Yeah, that's one thing a lot of people, I'm getting away from coaching or telling people to get away from, is that, hey, caloric restriction, because people tend to lean on that too much. But that's where your product comes in, and it's now the conversation can get steered towards, well, wait a second, instead of just trying to cut calories, because we all know eventually most people end up breaking, I can't sustain this. Why don't you add this, put this in your cupboard and help yourself and give yourself that edge at first? Because this is one of these things, and correct me if I'm wrong here, it's not you need a precursor. Oh, you need a base level of nutrition here. You need all this before you can do this. Many times with athletes and clients, I tell you can't really go supplement route unless you have a solid base of nutrition first. Yeah. This isn't one of those things. Anyone go get this and start this and say, hey, take advantage of it.
Yeah, what I have to say about that is I cannot guarantee that Mimio will make you healthy, but I can guarantee that whatever you're doing, it'll make you healthier. And I totally agree with the notion that, yes, you do need to have a foundation. If you really want to be the optimal health that you can be, you have to dial in the nutrition, you have to dial in the exercise, and then you have to dial in the supplements at the same time. But we've seen in all of our clinical studies that regardless of what people are eating, what their lifestyles are, they don't have to change it at all. They can just take the supplement and still get these benefits from it.
Which is crazy, but it's not to go say, hey, you can take this and it's going to negate poor eating. That's what people will hear that. Oh, okay. But when you say you can't guarantee that, I understand you have to say that, but if people are on this and it guides them to eat better food, better quality, and start working out, it changes their whole lifestyle and their whole culture of now that they're going to be better and better. Because I'd hope they start questioning themselves, because all the ingredients in this are going, if you're eating great and everything, they're going to increase metabolite function in your body. They're going to increase cellular function in a good way. It's now the person, the consumer, whether they want to try to do that and then dump water on the fire, or take the fire and say, hey, we're going to dump more gasoline on the fire and really ignite this thing and be into this realm of, hey, I'm going to see health benefits and I'm going to increase longevity. I'm going to increase my health and feel better, because the numbers you say, 2.5-year reduction of age, that's huge.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And especially just in that 8-week time course, we didn't continue to do follow-up after that 8-week time course ended, but those results are going to continue to stack. Maybe not to the same degree of 2.5 years every 8 weeks, but longevity is a long game. And if you can just add some incremental gains or slow your pace of aging down, then that can be really beneficial as well. And we're actually doing another case study with a different biological age metric, the Dunedin pace of aging. And what we've already seen from that is that 2 months on Mimio can take someone from a standard rate of aging, which is for every 1 year, you are aging 1 year biologically. We've been able to reduce that down to 0.8. Basically, for every 1 year that someone is aging, they're only aging 0.8 years biologically. And again, that's only after 8 weeks.
And that's the crazy thing, because in fasting, some of the studies there, fasting long-term, 2, 3, 4 months. Like, you got to be consistent with it. 8 weeks? You're telling me I can get this in 8 weeks? With the 8 weeks, do you recommend someone, if they're taking it, myself, is it this going to be a daily thing, or is it a cyclical thing? After, obviously, I'm going to assume you're going to say daily, because you do this after 8 weeks. What's it going to look like after 16 weeks, 32 weeks? I am just increasing my cellular ability just to be powerhouses.
Yeah, the thing that I kind of liken it to is, let's say on your daily schedule, you are eating 3 hamburgers a day. Just for every meal, you're eating a hamburger. And then suddenly you take one of those hamburgers and you replace it with a salad. You're going to get incremental benefit over time because you've taken something unhealthy, replaced it with something healthy. And that's going to continue as long as you continue to do it. If you then replace that salad back with a hamburger, your results are going to start going down again. And that's kind of how Mimio works as well. It's as long as you're taking it, you're doing something healthy, the results are going to continue to increase. But if you take it out, then you're going to backslide.
I mean, that's awesome, man. Did you ever think, getting into the mad science world, that you'd be like, create something like this? Or just sometimes I feel this stuff just gets stumbled upon. People, hey, I found something here.
Yeah. I mean, my goal was always to figure out, was there a way that we can recreate these longevity benefits of fasting? And that came from my whole personal experience of, I could do alternate day fasting, but it's just not a good life to live. That was always my goal. I had no idea that I was going to stumble upon it quite as quickly as we ended up doing. I thought that I was going to spend decades in the lab teasing out all of the changes that happened during fasting and trying to find ways that we could recreate it. We just happened to kind of get lucky on the try. And it's a very rarefied thing, going from being a grad student in a lab to then founding a company, being a CEO, making a product, getting it out there, being able to see that it actually makes a difference in people's lives is such a unique thing that almost nobody gets to do. And I feel very humbled and blessed and lucky that it kind of happened to me.
Absolutely. Well, you said you started in immunology.
Yeah.
It's full circle. Okay, coming back, you can still help people's immune system. Might not be the way you thought it was going to be in immunology, but you can alter it just by, should I call it a powder or a pill? Here, you can alter someone's system from within. And I really think the world you're in, that's where the world is going. And that's where it needs to go it doesn't need to be these crazy injectables, Ozempics, these quick fixes. People need to, we be able to harness some of this stuff and realize what we can take from the literature, take from what our body's been doing, and make it into a pill form to help longevity. That's where it's going to go.
Yeah, absolutely. And fun fact about Mimio and the GLP-1s, that we actually partner with a couple different longevity clinics around the country who use Mimio as a way to help wean people off of
No
the
way.
GLP-1 drugs. Yeah, because of the pretty powerful
Oh,
appetite suppression
yeah.
effects the product has. Essentially, people are on the GLP-1s, they lose the weight that they want to lose, then they want to come off of it because they don't want to be on a drug their whole
Mhm.
life. But the problem with coming off of the GLP-1s is
Yeah.
that you get these massive hunger withdrawals that happen. And also, by and large, at the same time, because they opted in for a quick fix, they usually haven't altered their lifestyle or their diet in any way. They never really addressed the underlying causes of the weight gain to begin with. They come off the drugs, they have all the cravings come rushing back, they have the hunger withdrawals. Most people end up regaining around 2/3 of the weight that they lost within the first 6 months after going off the product. Mimio can really help to keep those hunger signals in check while people transition over to a more healthy and sustainable lifestyle.
That's cool because I know there are a lot of people that they're coming off. They want to come off those drugs. They're very worried about what the
Yeah.
body's doing. And you can't fight body physiology. You got to be able to play with it, and that's the big difference between these GLP-1s and what Mimio's does. You're playing with body physiology to enhance it. We're not fighting it. It's sort of, I was always a big Jurassic Park fans. You get to play with physiology of this, not try to fight it because we know what happens when it goes wrong. But if someone is listening, they went the road of GLP-1s, get on this, help yourself out to come off, because then it's going to be able to sustain what you're doing and lead to a healthier life.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely recommend that, especially if you do want to come off it. It can be just a great way to help make that transition much easier.
Love it. Where can people find you? I know you have a website. Are you on Instagram?
Yeah, for the company, that's mimiohealth.com, Mimio health.com. And then our socials are at Mimio Health. If they want to learn more about me specifically, I also have a TikTok channel that's that nutrition that nutrition doctor. You can go and see me scream about nutrition into my bathroom mirror.
Anything new on the horizon? Is Mimio going to be your thing? I'm sure you're probably playing with some stuff.
Yeah, we're playing with some stuff. Again, much unlike other supplement companies, Mimio is very much science first, research heavy. We are, yes, have this fasting mimetic product, but we kind of said in the beginning of the call, we're also a biomimetic company. Just we ran this process with fasting. We're also really, really keen to run it with other regenerative states in the body, like exercise and meditation and cold exposure, really teasing out what's happening in the human body during these interesting states and finding ways that we can recreate those benefits. And the next one that we're going to focus on is exercise.
I was hoping you were going to say that.
Yeah.
And when you say these processes, people, oh, what's he mean? Anytime we do exercise, or let's say ice bath or sauna, your body's reacting to it in a good way. Stress on the system is going to create a change at the cellular level. How do you start to capture that? And people have been doing this they're trying to do it for years, and they kind of missed the boat because they were looking for the quick fixes rather than what are the substrates that help. But that's cool. I mean, when I would say, once you get the exercise one, if you want to, feel free to come back on and we dive into that. I want to hear about that. Or if you need any help with that.
Yeah, that'll be a fun one for sure.
Yeah.
We're really excited about it.
Matt Gluckman and Eric Menchie here from Think Fitness Life. Our entire careers have been dedicated to fitness, particularly how the mind helps the body. We've been around gyms and nutrition strategies for 25 plus years collectively, and nothing harms or helps better than your own mind, untrained or trained. Pushing beyond your limits, overcoming whatever's thrown your way, and making the decision to show up day in and day out as a lifestyle takes more soul than sand. And what I mean by that is when you can get your mindset and heart leading you consistently in the direction of your goals and dreams, well, it's just a matter of time before you have the performance, physique, or quality of life you're yearning for. See, your thoughts will stem from your beliefs, which will then lead you to action, which develop into your behavior and ultimately lead you to results. It's really that simple. Our process takes time and it takes open communication. It's amazing what pops up along the fitness journey to betterment, and we can be there every step of the way. To learn more or apply for coaching, visit www.thinkfitnesslife.com. Start recreating your life today.